What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors sits down for what should be a routine morning show interview, only to find himself in the crosshairs of a host determined to make headlines at his expense? Well, you're about to witness one of the most shocking exchanges in daytime television history, where politeness meets poison, and where even Wolverine himself couldn't claw his way out of an ambush that nobody saw coming. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really happened here, because trust me, you're going to have opinions about this one. Hugh Jackman walked onto The View set that Tuesday morning with his trademark smile, waving to the audience who erupted in their usual enthusiastic applause. He'd been on the show countless times before, always the perfect gentleman, always gracious and charming. The producers loved booking him because he was reliable, professional, and never caused drama. But today would be different. Today, Joy Behar had something else in mind. "Hugh, welcome back to The View," Joy said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes as the applause died down. "Always a pleasure to have you here." "Thank you for having me, Joy. It's great to see you again," Hugh replied, settling into his chair, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. The other hosts, Whoopi, Sarah, and Sunny, exchanged glances. They could sense something was off about Joy's energy today, but none of them could have predicted what was coming next. "So, Hugh, you're here to talk about your new film. But I have to ask you about something else first," Joy began, her voice taking on that particular tone she used when she was about to pounce. "There's been some talk about your personal life lately, and I think our audience deserves to know the truth." Hugh's eyebrows furrowed slightly. This wasn't the direction he'd expected the interview to go. His publicist had briefed him on the talking points, standard questions about his upcoming projects, maybe something about his family, nothing controversial. "I'm sorry, Joy, what exactly are you referring to?" he asked, maintaining his composure but clearly caught off guard. Joy leaned forward, and you could practically see the wheels turning in her head. She had something, or at least she thought she did, and she was going to milk it for everything it was worth. "Well, there are rumors circulating about your marriage, about certain, shall we say, arrangements you and your wife might have? Care to comment on that?" The audience fell silent. Even the cameramen seemed to hold their breath. This was live television, and Joy had just thrown a grenade into what was supposed to be a friendly chat. Hugh's face hardened. The easy smile disappeared, replaced by something colder, more controlled. Anyone who knew him could see that he was not pleased, but he was too much of a professional to lose his cool on national television. "Joy, I'm not sure what rumors you're talking about, but I'd appreciate it if we could focus on why I'm actually here today," he said. His voice measured but with an edge that wasn't there before. But Joy wasn't backing down. If anything, she seemed energized by his discomfort. "Oh, come on, Hugh, you're a big boy. You can handle a little honest conversation. The tabloids have been having a field day with stories about your marriage. Don't you think your fans deserve to know the truth about their favorite movie star?" Whoopi shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Joy, maybe we should—" She started to interject, but Joy cut her off with a wave of her hand. "No, Whoopi, this is important. Hugh here presents himself as this perfect family man, but there are questions. Serious questions about the authenticity of his marriage, about whether it's all just a carefully crafted image for his career." The color drained from Hugh's face, not from embarrassment, but from sheer disbelief at what he was hearing. He'd dealt with difficult interviewers before, but nothing quite like this. This felt personal, vindictive even. "Joy, I have to stop you right there," Hugh said, his Australian accent becoming more pronounced as his emotions rose. "I came here as a guest on your show, in good faith, to talk about my work. I did not come here to have my marriage and my family attacked on live television." "Attacked?" Joy laughed, but it was a harsh sound. "I'm just asking questions that people are already asking. Isn't that what journalism is about?" "Journalism," Hugh repeated, and for the first time since the exchange began, there was real fire in his voice. "Is that what you call this? Because where I come from, journalism involves facts, research, and integrity. What you're doing right now feels more like gossip-mongering." The audience was dead silent now. They'd come expecting the usual lighthearted banter, celebrity anecdotes, and maybe a few laughs. Instead, they were witnessing what was quickly becoming a train wreck in real time. Sarah tried to lighten the mood. Maybe we should take a commercial break and, she suggested, but Joy was having none of it. We're live, Sarah. This is what live television is about. Real conversations about real issues. She turned back to Hugh, her eyes gleaming with something that looked almost predatory. So, Hugh, since you're being so defensive, maybe that tells us something right there. If there's nothing to hide, why not just answer the question? Hugh stood up slowly, his hands gripping the arms of his chair so tightly his knuckles had turned white. The camera zoomed in on his face, capturing every emotion as it played across his features: anger, disappointment, and something else, a kind of wounded dignity that was heartbreaking to watch. You want to know what tells us something, Joy? He said, his voice quiet but carrying clearly across the studio. What tells us something is that you invited me here under false pretenses. You had your producers reach out to my team, talking about promoting my film, discussing my charitable work, having a nice conversation with an old friend. And instead, you ambush me with tabloid gossip and unsubstantiated rumors. Joy's smile faltered for just a moment, but she quickly recovered. I'm just doing my job, Hugh. Don't shoot the messenger. Your job? Hugh's voice rose slightly. Your job is to entertain and inform your audience, not to destroy people's reputations based on gossip and speculation. Hugh was still standing, towering over the panel, and you could see the internal struggle playing out on his face. This was a man who had spent decades in Hollywood, who had navigated countless interviews, premieres, and public appearances with grace and professionalism. But Joy had crossed a line that even his legendary patience couldn't withstand. Let me ask you something, Joy, Hugh continued, his voice gaining strength. Do you have any actual evidence for these rumors you're so eager to discuss? Any sources? Any facts? Or are you just repeating whatever garbage you read in some tabloid while you were getting your morning coffee? The other hosts were now openly uncomfortable. Whoopi was shaking her head. Sunny was staring at her hands. And Sarah looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. But Joy, incredibly, seemed to be enjoying herself. Evidence? Hugh, the evidence is everywhere. The way you two appear in public, the body language, the timing of your public appearances together. People aren't stupid. They can see what's going on. What exactly do you think people are seeing? Hugh demanded. A husband and wife who respect each other's privacy? A couple who doesn't feel the need to perform their relationship for the cameras every single day? Is that what you find so suspicious? Joy leaned back in her chair, clearly relishing the confrontation. I find it suspicious when someone in the public eye gets so defensive about simple questions. If your marriage is as solid as you claim, why not just laugh this off? Hugh let out a bitter laugh. Laugh it off? Joy, you're sitting here on national television, in front of millions of viewers, questioning the legitimacy of my marriage based on nothing but your own wild speculation. You're talking about my wife, my family, people I love, and who didn't sign up to be attacked by someone they've never even met. And you think I should laugh it off? I'm not attacking anyone, Joy protested, but her voice lacked conviction. I'm asking legitimate questions about a public figure. Legitimate? Hugh's voice cracked slightly. There is nothing legitimate about what you're doing right now. You want to know what's legitimate? 27 years of marriage. 3 children who adore both their parents. A woman who has supported me through every high and low of my career, who has been my rock, my best friend, and the love of my life. That's what's legitimate, Joy, not whatever poison you're trying to spread here today. The audience was completely captivated now. Some were nodding in agreement with Hugh, others looked shocked at the intensity of the exchange. A few were recording on their phones, knowing they were witnessing television history in the making. Joy, however, wasn't backing down. If anything, Hugh's emotional response seemed to embolden her further. That's a very pretty speech, Hugh, but pretty speeches don't answer questions. The fact remains that there are persistent rumors about your marriage, about arrangements, about the real nature of your relationship with your wife. These rumors don't come from nowhere. Hugh slammed his hand down on the table so hard that the coffee mugs jumped. The sound echoed through the studio like a gunshot. Enough, he shouted, and for a moment, everyone froze. Hugh Jackman, the man known for his genteel demeanor and endless patience, had finally reached his breaking point. I am done with this. I am done with you. And I am done with this conversation. Oxley. End. Oxley. Oxley. To Jackman. But Joy wasn't finished with him yet. So you're just gonna storm off? Very mature, Hugh. Very professional. Is this how you handle all your problems? By running away when someone asks you a tough question? Hugh turned back to face her, and the look in his eyes was something none of them had ever seen before. It was the look of a man who had been pushed too far, who had tried to maintain his dignity and composure but was now ready to fight back. Running away? He repeated slowly. Joy, I've been in this business for over 30 years. I've been asked tough questions by some of the best journalists in the world. I've been challenged, criticized, and scrutinized by people who actually knew what they were talking about. But what you're doing here isn't journalism. It isn't tough questioning. It's cruelty dressed up as curiosity, and I won't stand for it. Whoopi finally found her voice. Maybe we should all just take a step back here, she said diplomatically. No, Whoopi, Hugh said, his eyes never leaving Joy's face. I think it's important that everyone understands what's happening here. Joy invited me on this show under false pretenses. She lied to my representatives about the nature of this interview. She ambushed me with unsubstantiated gossip about my personal life. And when I tried to redirect the conversation to something appropriate, she doubled down and became even more aggressive. Joy scoffed. Oh, please, don't be so dramatic. I asked you a few questions. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be in show business. A few questions? Hugh's voice was incredulous. Joy, you accused my wife and me of having a fake marriage. You suggested that everything about our relationship is a lie created for publicity. You questioned my integrity, my honesty, and my character, all without a shred of evidence. That's not asking questions. That's assassination. The tension in the studio was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Crew members were whispering among themselves, unsure whether they should keep rolling or cut to commercial. The audience was transfixed, many of them clearly on Hugh's side based on their expressions. Joy, realizing that she was losing the room, tried a different approach. Look, Hugh, I understand you're upset, but this is what happens when you're a celebrity. People talk. People speculate. People ask questions. That's the price of fame. The price of fame? Hugh repeated, and his voice was dangerously quiet now. Joy, I've been famous for a long time. I understand that people are interested in my life. I understand that there will always be speculation and gossip. What I don't understand is why someone with a platform like yours would choose to legitimize and amplify the worst kind of tabloid garbage instead of using that platform for something constructive. Sarah tried once more to intervene. Hugh, maybe we could talk about your new movie now? But Hugh shook his head. No, Sarah, I'm sorry, but I can't continue this interview. I won't sit here and pretend that what just happened is acceptable. Joy has made it clear that she's not interested in having a respectful conversation about my work or anything else constructive. Joy's eyes flashed with anger. So you're gonna run away after all? How disappointing. I thought Hugh Jackman had more backbone than that. Hugh stared at her for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was steady and controlled. But there was steel in it. Backbone, Joy? You want to talk about backbone? Having backbone means standing up for the people you love when they're being attacked by someone who doesn't even know them. Having backbone means refusing to participate in someone else's attempt to destroy reputations for entertainment value. Having backbone means knowing when to walk away from a situation that has become toxic and harmful. He started to remove his microphone, his movements deliberate and calm. And if you think that walking away from this circus makes me weak, then you clearly don't understand the difference between strength and stubbornness. Joy watched Hugh fumbling with his microphone pack, and something in her expression shifted. Maybe it was the realization that she had gone too far, or maybe it was the fear that her reputation was about to take a massive hit when this footage inevitably went viral. Either way, she wasn't ready to let Hugh have the last word. You know what, Hugh? She called out as he started to walk away. Maybe the rumors are true after all. Maybe your marriage really is just for show, because a real husband would defend his wife better than this pathetic display. Hugh froze mid-step. The entire studio held its collective breath. Even the camera operator stopped moving, sensing that something seismic was about to happen. Slowly, deliberately, Hugh turned around. The expression on his face was unlike anything anyone had ever seen from him before. It was cold, calculating, and absolutely furious. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper but somehow carrying to every corner of the studio. Joy, perhaps realizing she had finally pushed him over the edge, tried to backtrack. "I was just saying that maybe you should have handled this differently, that's all." "No," Hugh said, walking back toward the panel. "That's not what you said. You said maybe the rumors about my marriage are true. You said maybe my marriage is for show. You called my defense of my wife a pathetic display." He was standing right in front of her now, towering over her seated form. "Is that really what you want to go on record saying, Joy?" The other hosts were frozen in their seats. Whoopi looked like she wanted to disappear. Sarah was gripping her cards so tightly they were crumpling. Sunny was staring at Joy with a mixture of horror and disbelief. "Hugh, please sit down," Whoopi tried weakly. "No, Whoopi. I think Joy has something more to say. Don't you, Joy? You seem to have a lot of opinions about my marriage, about my wife, about my character. Please, share them with everyone." Joy's confidence was crumbling visibly. She had expected Hugh to slink away quietly, to take her abuse and leave. She hadn't expected him to come back swinging. "I think you're overreacting," she said, but her voice was shaky now. "Overreacting?" Hugh laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Joy, let me tell you something about my wife. She's a brilliant, accomplished woman who gave up her own career to support mine. She's raised our children while I was off making movies and traveling the world. She's been there for every triumph and every failure, every good review and every bad one. She's the strongest, most generous, most loving person I've ever known." His voice was getting stronger with every word, more passionate, more fierce. "And you, sitting here in your comfortable chair, making your comfortable salary, surrounded by your comfortable life, think you have the right to question her? To question us? Based on what? Based on gossip and speculation, and your own twisted need to create drama where none exists?" Joy tried to interrupt. "Hugh, I never said anything bad about your wife specifically. You question the legitimacy of our entire relationship," Hugh exploded. "You suggested that 27 years of love, partnership, and commitment is nothing more than a publicity stunt. You implied that I'm living a lie, that she's living a lie, that our children are growing up in some kind of elaborate charade." The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. This wasn't just a celebrity meltdown. This was a man defending everything he held dear. "But you know what the real tragedy is here, Joy?" Hugh continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper again. "The real tragedy is that you have a platform that reaches millions of people every day. You have the opportunity to inspire, to educate, to lift people up, and instead, you choose to tear them down. Instead of celebrating love and commitment and family, you choose to poison the well with doubt and suspicion." Joy was visibly shaken now. Her usual smugness had evaporated, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. "I was just doing my job," she said weakly. "Your job?" Hugh shook his head in disgust. "Your job is to destroy people's reputations? Your job is to spread lies and innuendo? Your job is to hurt innocent people for the sake of ratings?" He paused, studying her face. "If that's really what you think your job is, then maybe you need to find a new line of work." Whoopi finally managed to find her voice. "Security," she called out quietly, but Hugh heard her. "Don't worry, Whoopi, I'm leaving. But before I go, I want everyone watching this, everyone in this studio, everyone who will see this online, to understand something very important." He looked directly into the camera. "What you've witnessed here today isn't journalism. It isn't entertainment. It's bullying, pure and simple. It's someone with power using that power to hurt someone else for no reason other than they can." He turned back to Joy, who was now slumped in her chair, looking smaller than anyone had ever seen her. "And Joy, I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember what it felt like to be called out for your cruelty. I want you to think about this the next time you're tempted to destroy someone's life for a few minutes of controversy." The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming in the background. Hugh straightened his jacket, ran a hand through his hair, and started walking toward the exit. But Joy, in one final desperate attempt to salvage something from this disaster, called out after him, "You can't just walk off our show, Hugh. We're live. This is unprofessional." Hugh stopped at the edge of the stage and turned back one last time. "Unprofessional?" He smiled, but it was a cold smile. "Joy, I've been nothing but professional for the last 30 years of my career. I've been gracious to difficult interviewers, patient with ridiculous questions, and diplomatic even when I disagreed with people. But you know what? There comes a time when being professional means refusing to enable someone else's unprofessionalism." He looked at each of the other hosts in turn. "Whoopee, Sarah, Sonny. I'm sorry you had to be part of this. You deserve better colleagues." And with that, Hugh Jackman walked off the View set, leaving behind a stunned audience, a devastated Joy Behar, and what would become one of the most talked about television moments in history. Joy sat in her chair for several long seconds, the reality of what had just happened slowly sinking in. The cameras were still rolling, the audience was still watching, and she had just been thoroughly and publicly dismantled by one of Hollywood's most respected actors. When the show finally cut to commercial, the damage was already done. Within minutes, clips of the exchange were spreading across social media like wildfire. The consensus was unanimous. Hugh Jackman had shown incredible restraint in the face of unprovoked attacks, and Joy Behar had revealed herself to be exactly the kind of toxic personality that was ruining daytime television. The most devastating part wasn't even Hugh's passionate defense of his family, though that was certainly powerful. It was the way he had systematically dismantled Joy's justifications, exposing the hollow cruelty at the heart of her approach to interviewing. He had held up a mirror to her behavior, and the reflection was ugly. So there you have it, one of the most shocking confrontations in television history, where a beloved actor finally said, "Enough is enough," and walked away from a host who had crossed every line of decency and professionalism. Make sure you subscribe for more incredible stories like this one, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Hugh Jackman was right to walk off? Or should he have handled it differently?